welcome everybody who's come to join us online. So this is the first evening of our Burren in Bloom Festival, our second year of having to hold it online. So fingers crossed we'll be holding it in person again next year. So you've seen the kind of layout that we have for tonight. We're going to have 6 groups presenting biodiversity plans. It's really exciting, the first time we've had groups coming in like this to share with us the work that they're doing. You'll have seen as well, hopefully, all the programmes. So we've lots of different events every night, if you can join us for as many of those as possible. When we get started, we'll be starting with Eileen talking about the Burrenbeo Conservation Volunteers. What we'll do at the end of that, there will be a short pause for people for questions. You can put questions in the chat box, and anyone who's out there, if you want to add to the chat box where you've come from, so we can kind of get an idea of where you're all from. Just when you are putting things in the chat, you can change it to all panelists and attendees. So if you're sharing your locations, then please do that. So like I said, welcome to Burren in Bloom. This is Burrenbeo Trust, their annual event. So celebrating biodiversity and the Burren. So hopefully we all kind of, by now we're all Zoom pros. So I won't take too much longer running over how the Zoom session is going to work, but you'll kind of see how we're going to present people and have questions at the end of each session, okay, for tonight. So what I'll do first of all is I will just start by presenting Eileen O'Connor. So she is the chair of the Burrenbeo Conservation Volunteers. She's been an active conservation volunteer for a very long time. She's been chair for about 5 years now. The Conservation Volunteers started in 2010, so they've been working on various projects since then. And Eileen is a voluntary committee member as well. So like I said, she is the chair. So she's just going to spend about 10 minutes just explaining and talking about the work of the Conservation Volunteers. And then Mary Dillon is going to take over, another Burrenbeo staff member, talking about the work she's done with the community groups. Hello, Mary. and she'll be then showing the groups, and they'll be talking about the work they've done. So Eileen, whenever you're ready, we'll just, it'll take a couple of seconds, will it, for your screen share to kick off?
It will, yeah, just be patient. And can you hear me okay? Volume is okay, yeah?
Yep, we're hearing
okay.
you, good.
We'll hope that this one shares now.
It's looking good. We've got people from America, Eileen. We've got people from Offaly, Wexford, Ardrahan, Roscommon, Lisdoonvarna, from everywhere.
Lovely, okay. So ready to go? Fingers crossed. So welcome everybody, and I'm delighted to be asked to speak here tonight. I suppose showing the work of the Burrenbeo Conservation Volunteers and just speaking on their behalf. So I have a very short presentation, and the first part is about how we were set up, and a little bit about the history, and then after that just highlighting some of our biodiversity projects that we're working on in the Burren. So the story of the BCV, as Kate said, we were set up about 10 years ago, back in February of, well, it's 11 now, so we should have had a big party, but we didn't, so we'll have to remedy that. Set up in 2010, and at that time, really, the need was identified for some active conservation on the ground. The particular problems at the time were encroachment of scrub and wall management in the Burren, which was affecting some of the archaeological sites, I suppose, but more importantly, the biodiversity of it. And since then, our numbers have grown, our projects have grown. We have over 400 on a mailing list. And we try and run at least one event every month, sometimes more. Anyone is free to join. There's no commitment, and it is free to join us. And we just work on the projects that we have up and running and add to it as the need arises. So these are some of the projects that we are currently involved with, and the ones in yellow there are the ones with a particular biodiversity slant. So some of those then will have different issues around running them. For example, habitat management can only happen at certain times of the year because of scrub clearance. Monument site management, those ones are more to do with the archaeology. Some of the events that we run, like the coastal cleanups, we can have many volunteers on those. Pre-COVID, a little bit more managed now, but because the space is large. And then others, because the space we're working in is small, they're just smaller amounts of people. And we keep adding to the projects every time. So a quick look at the numbers of volunteers over the 11 years now. I think we'll have to take 2020 and just ignore it. So we've gone from 49 to well over 100 for the past 3 years pre-COVID, and we would be hoping to get our numbers back up to that. And that's the number of people who come out every year at least once with us. We try and run, like you can see, there are a variety of numbers of events, and they change as well from year to year, depending. We have over 500 people have come out at least once with the Burrenbeo Conservation Volunteers in the years since we've established, and we have one stupendous volunteer who has come out 92 times himself on events. We maintain many links and connections with lots of groups and organizations in the area, and we use this as a way for cooperative working, cooperative learning, using expert advice, and also, I suppose, pooling resources for larger jobs that need more workers for. We provide some training and upskilling as and when it's needed. So, for example, we run invasive species workshop, butterfly monitoring and transects, some archaeological upskilling. We do first aid training. We ran a course on stone wall building. So lots of different things that we're involved with as volunteers, and then people get a chance to actually come on the courses and learn the skills. So just some examples of our biodiversity projects now. The first one here is butterfly habitat management. And this is our site up in Carron. And it's a beautiful site with a wide variety of different butterflies, but in particular, the marsh fritillary butterfly breeds on this site. And again, you can see the problem with scrub encroaching into the field. And that's our job then, is to go and keep the field clear from hazel scrub. The butterfly is quite particular in the needs it has. So it lays its eggs on a particular food plant, the devil's bed scabious, and that food plant needs to grow in an open area. It won't grow in a hazel woodland. So it needs that for the food plant. And then the caterpillars themselves, they hang out together in this lovely web that they weave, and they spend the winter, overwintered as caterpillars. But what they need to survive so that they can turn into this beautiful butterfly is a sheltered sunny spot. And again, if it's just hazel scrubland or blackthorn or brambles, they won't have that opportunity to survive. So this site is a particularly important breeding site for this butterfly, but also for many others. You can see the terrain itself is quite tricky to get around. It is an organic farm, so we cut the scrub by hand, we sort it, and then we try and take it without too much damage to ourselves. And we've become quite inventive, really, in different ways of taking the scrub across quite tricky ground. We'll have discussions with the farmer, the landowner, prior to the event, and they'll have told us where to take the cut scrub. And then staying with the butterfly theme, we've run some butterfly identification workshops, and then how to set up a butterfly transect. And a transect is where you walk a set route once a week, usually from April to September, and you record the butterflies that you see on that route. And then all of that data is fed into the Irish Butterfly Monitoring Scheme, and that actually feeds into the European Butterfly Monitoring Scheme as well. And butterflies are actually quite sensitive to climate change, and changes in their numbers can be picked up through monitoring schemes like this. So, for example, this is a map from the Irish Butterfly Monitoring Scheme website, and it shows where some of the transects that have been set up in County Clare are located, and I think there might even be a few more since that. We look after a couple of maternity root sites for the Lesser Horseshoe. That was more difficult to say than I thought it would be. So we look after those. We work with Clare County Council for some, and the Vincent Wildlife Trust for another one. And the Lesser Horseshoe Bat, this particular site that we were looking after, first of all, it needed some work just protecting the site. It's an old stable, and that's where they're roosting up in the attic space of that. But to protect them from predators getting in. This is the little bat now, and here they all are, all roosting away. So a very important site to maintain a maternity site for this bat. Out at the back of this site, there was quite a large amount of scrub. And when we went to it first, our biggest job initially was to actually try and find the boundary wall and see if there was any any repair that had to be done to it. And then these trees that you see in the picture, well, they were planted to help the baby bats to learn to fly. And the idea is that they're planted near to where they'll emerge, and they'll be able to use them to learn to fly. But the bottom of the trees had become quite overgrown. And again, there was a lot of work just clearing those. So we go back to the site every so often and just make sure that it's I suppose it's maintained well and that it's suitable for the bats. And again, we have the expert knowledge from Clare County Council and the Vincent Wildlife Trust regarding what's needed on the site. Then we do some coastal cleanup events, and this really would be for the marine biodiversity side. And we all know that there's more pollution on our coasts every time we go out. So some of the ones that we do is we tend to go to the more difficult, kind of the rocky shoreline, difficult to access areas. And we're members of Clean Coast, but we adopted the entire Burren coastline as our site, and we go to different parts of it at different times. The rubbish that we collect then, it can be quite a carry back to get it back to the collection site. But you can see over the years, we have collected a lot of rubbish from the Burren coastline. So we're hopefully getting back out the end of this month or even the end of June, maybe for another coastal cleanup. That might be one of our events, restrictions pending, etc. We have a new project then, which is the Burren Pine Project, and we're going to be involved regarding management of the sites for the Burren Pine. So the volunteers will act almost like guardians of the sites and helping with the work needed to plant the trees, but also to maintain the sites. So that's a new project that we're becoming involved with. So that's it, a little quick snapshot of the BCV, the Burren Conservation Volunteers. And if you'd like to join us, we would love to have more volunteers along.
Eileen, that was absolutely fabulous. Thank you, and really, really well done. You've kind of, Eileen's only given you a very short kind of snapshot of all the different projects that the conservation volunteers take on. So, you know, there are other projects that she didn't have time to mention that aren't so linked to biodiversity, but to other kind of Burren issues. Now, if you have any questions or anything you'd like to ask Eileen about volunteers, oh, we do have one here. So any tips? Oh, this is a good one, Eileen. Any tips on getting people involved with conservation volunteering?
Usually, if you can bribe them with Mary's chocolate biscuit cake at the tea break, that will bring them back. That brings them back a lot, yeah.
Eileen, that's the best answer. We usually at good times we have a tea and coffee box and we share goodies, and Mary's chocolate biscuit cake is outstanding. Karen is asking, when is the next Burren Pine project planned?
I think we'll just have to keep an eye on that, because that plan is developing, and we have been asked to become involved just to help with, as I said, setting up the sites and maintaining them. So we don't have any sites yet that we're working on, but as soon as we get it, we'll be advertising it through volunteer@burrenbeo.com. So keep an eye out.
Exactly.
Yeah, keep an eye out.
And if you're interested in the conservation volunteers, you can sign up by emailing Burrenbeo, and we can add you to the volunteer list. There is another event coming up. We're very limited to spaces on events at the moment because of COVID restrictions. So there will be an event hopefully at the end of May if we can get our people together. Are there any other questions for Eileen? Eileen, that was really, really lovely. Well done.
Thanks.
We're all happy.
Best of luck for the rest of the night.
Thanks ever so much, Eileen. You can have a cup of tea now. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to hand over to Mary Dillon from Burrenbeo Trust. Mary Dillon has been running our communities project. So this is our newest programme kind of in Burrenbeo Trust. It's actually really exciting. For the last 2 years, we've had a really good chance to work with adult groups doing similar things to what we do with the children in school, but on a very different level. So it's been amazing that we've been able to do it. We have to thank the GRD for the funding for it, but I think Mary will fill us in on the rest of that. So I'm going to stop talking now and let Mary talk about it, who knows a lot more than me.
Thanks a million, Kate. Thanks for that. And Eileen, that was fascinating. I must try and get out with you sometime into the Burren. So as Kate said, my name is Mary. You're all very welcome to this launch of 6 local biodiversity plans from County Galway. First, I want to say a really big congratulations to the 6 communities for completing the biodiversity training programme and writing 6 excellent plans. For those of you wishing to view the plans, they will be available on the Burrenbeo website from next week, and also on the Galway Community Heritage website. So the next hour, I'm going to talk through the training the communities received and then speak to a representative from each of the 6 communities. Juanita from Brown from the All Ireland Pollinator Plan will give you her thoughts on each plan. And afterwards, we'll hear from Claire Conroy of Galway Rural Development. As Kate was saying, Galway Rural Development is the biodiversity training programme. The Galway Heritage Officer, Marie Mannion, was due to join us this evening, but she can no longer make it, and she sends her apologies. And she hopes to touch base with all the groups soon that have done the training. So just before we look at the biodiversity plans, I want to explain a bit about how we ran the biodiversity training programme. The initial training was facilitated by myself and Burren of Burrenbeo. And as many of you know, Burrenbeo is dedicated to connecting all of us to our places and our role in caring for them. So when Galway Rural Development put biodiversity training for 6 communities out to tender, we were delighted to bring our place-based approach to that. We advertised the programme to community groups in autumn 2020, and groups from 6 communities were chosen from the many applications. And these communities were Ardrahan, Kinvara, Oranmore, Co.Galway, Gort and Woodford. So some of the groups involved were tidy towns groups, others were local environmental groups. For example, from Ardrahan, we had a newly created environmental group called Ardrahan for Nature. And we also had lots of tidy towns groups and climate action groups, development association groups, and even active and age groups. So people from many different mindsets came together to take on the global challenge of biodiversity loss at a global level, at a local level. And we believe the more people involved in making of the plan and the more local groups represented in the process, the stronger the plan will be for that. So I'm just going to share my screen here, if you bear with me for a second. Okay. Okay. So previously, when we had run the community biodiversity training, we enjoyed meeting people in their own communities and getting out and about into nature. But because of COVID, we had to run it remotely, and that was actually a big challenge for us. We missed out on the chats over cups of tea during the breaks, and participants missed out on meeting like-minded people from other communities. However, some people who would not have been able to attend the sessions in real life were able to attend over Zoom. And also we had nearly full attendance for every session, which was fantastic. And I'm not sure if that was because people were really enjoying it or there was nothing else to do in lockdown. But either way, it was a bonus of doing things over Zoom. So I just want to explain the approach that we took to the biodiversity training before I go on to describe each community's plan and talk to a representative from each community. So as I was saying, we took a place-based approach to the biodiversity training, and that meant we looked at all aspects of place. Its built heritage, its cultural heritage, as well as its natural heritage. We feel strongly that considering all aspects of place makes for a deeper connection to that place, and that leads to stronger community stewardship. We used various online tools such as the Heritage Maps websites, and of course, many of the communities are experts in their local heritage themselves. Then we focused in on biodiversity, looking at what was designated as a conservation area in each locality, examining local threats to biodiversity in each place, and the opportunities in each place to do something that could have a positive impact on biodiversity. And because Burrenbeo is all about community stewardship, in other words, action, the training culminated in the 6 communities drawing up local biodiversity action plans. So when each community discussed what actions they would like to carry out, Burrenbeo arranged a series of 12 skills training workshops. These workshops covered everything from community engagement to managing grasslands, planting for pollinators, creating community gardens, etc., etc. And the skills training workshops were designed to enable each community to gain the expertise needed to put their plan into action. So we're now going to have a look at the 6 community biodiversity plans, and afterwards we'll talk to a participant from each community. Also, we will hear from Juanita of the All Ireland Pollinator Plan and get her perspective on the plans. So this is the Co.Galway Biodiversity Plan. Here's the cover. On the left-hand side, it's got a beautiful picture of the Abbey and a natural meadow in the front. Some of the actions that they want to carry out are to create a community garden, explore Co.Galway's nature in the past, their relationship with nature in the past, run environmental education using social media, create River Clare interpretive boards, work to protect the water quality of the beautiful River Clare, and enact projects to help pollinators. Now, that is by no means all their actions, but I'm just giving you a snapshot, and we will talk to a representative from each community in a little while. So Kinvara's plan then, Kinvara we had was kind of a collaborative effort between Kinvara Tidy Towns and the Balandarian Kinvara Tree Gang. And their projects include the Holly Tree Garden Biodiversity Project, tree planting and wildflower meadow creation project, creating a heritage trail around Kinvara, run a series of talks on local biodiversity, and taking part in the Pots for Pollinators initiative, which is a County Galway, I believe it's County Galway, could be nationwide, initiative to help pollinators. Then our Drahan, we have a lovely picture here that's on the cover of their plan, and it's the village kind of in silhouette. You can see the castle and the church. They actually formed a new group to do this training, and they call themselves our Drahan for Nature. And they're just starting off, and what they have hoped to do is to visit the local school, talk about biodiversity, run a series of walks and talks, create local flora and fauna information boards for the village centre, and promote reduced mowing of public spaces. So you're getting the picture that each community, rather than just having the same actions, they examined what they could do in their local place, what needed to be done, and worked around that. Woodford's biodiversity plan, Woodford, it was the Development Association who took part in the training, and they had a very diverse group of people from lots of different backgrounds. Their plan looks at what they can do to help biodiversity, as well as looking at built and cultural heritage. The actions relate to all three fields, really. So some of their actions include education, for example, holding local dawn horse walks and bat walks, highlighting the importance of the local river catchment area and how to protect it, tackling invasive species like Japanese knotweed, promoting wild bird cover crops to farmers, and creating a wildflower meadow. So that we'll talk to somebody from Woodford in a little while about their plan. So the last, but by no means least, second last plan that we're going to look at this evening is the Gort Area Biodiversity Plan. And from Gort, we had two groups. We had the Gort River Walk group, and we had the Gort Tidy Towns group. So the two groups came together to do the training. So the front cover there shows the river in all its glory. This plan is an all-encompassing plan. Their actions include conservation and protection and enhancement of existing green or wild areas. All planting in or around the town is to follow the All Ireland Pollinator Plan in future, and further development of the Gort River Walk and its maintenance of its natural habitat. And again, that's just a taster of some of the actions that they are planning to do. And last but not least, then we have Oranmore. They have a lovely picture of Oranmore Castle on the front cover of their plan. Peter Butler, who we'll be talking to in a little while, was telling me that this castle is also home to a population of swifts. So it's very apt to have a photograph of it on the front cover. From Oranmore, we had the Active in Age local Oranmore group, and we had Oranmore Tidy Towns. So again, a couple of groups coming together. Their actions include investigating the biodiversity of our local historic graveyards, exploring the feasibility of creating its first community orchard, encouraging housing estates in Oranmore to adopt a measure that would improve biodiversity, and increasing the number of trees in the area. So we're just going to stop sharing the screen now, and I'm just going to go to our first community representative, which is Katrina from Co.Galway. Hi, Katrina, can you hear me? She's muted there. I'll just have to unmute her. Sorry. Just unmute you there, Katrina.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi there, Mary. How are you doing? Nice to chat with you again.
Yes. Thanks so much, and well done on completing the training program and the excellent plan. I just wanted to put a few questions to you. You had a group of 8 people from very different walks of life doing the biodiversity training course. And I always wondered how you went about engaging them. It was such a wide group from different mindsets and different backgrounds. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Sure, Mary, I can. Well, from my experience as a conservation volunteer and also from my work as a Green Schools educational officer, I always find the best way to complete environmental actions is to engage with people who are interested in the environment, but who are also active in protecting the environment. Like if you want to get something done, ask a busy person. So I use this approach to invite 8 people to take part in biodiversity training, and there were a variety of members, including long-standing Co.Galway Tidy Towns members, younger and newer members, and some with a background in ecology, and also local community members who would do a lot of community work for their Galway village.
Well done. So did you literally go and knock on people's doors and say, this is happening, would you like to take part?
I would have built up the contacts over the years, Mary, and particularly last summer during the COVID-19, when you go for your walks and cycles in the bog area or along by the river, you'd meet all these different people and you could get to know them a lot better. And then I'd invite them to come along to like be our butterfly monitoring program that I was.
Yeah, that's one thing about Co.Galway. You already had completed a couple of biodiversity projects. Can you tell us one project that Clare Tidy Towns would have done in recent years?
Yes, absolutely. The Pollinator and Flower Project in 2019. So this project involved like 3 different approaches. There was education, there was also actions, and third of all, there was research involved. So the actions that we took part in is we identified 3 wildflower areas, and we designated them as pollinator areas, and we erected pollinator signs. Second of all, we looked at the raised beds and the planters, and we planted pollinator-friendly flowers. And then the education route, we engaged with the local national schools and ran pollinator workshops, outdoor and indoor. And we also invited the children to take part in a bee art competition. And we also awarded them prizes, which were sponsored by Co.Galway Tidy Towns and also by SuperValue. And prizes were like wildflower seeds, and also the main prize was a trip to Slivosh Honeybee Farm.
Wow.
Really enjoyed taking part in this project, and they had a sense of ownership, and they could see their posters displayed in SuperValue, and they got some publicity in the local newspaper as well. And the way we educated people about pollinators is that we had the pollinator information leaflets in SuperValue for people to take. And we also organised a bee walk and talk with Green Sod Ireland for Heritage Week. And the third approach then we used was research. So as I was saying, I led the Bumblebee and Butterfly Monitoring Scheme under National Biodiversity Data Centre, and invited people to come along and take part in that walk, and we published our results on Facebook so members could see which type of butterflies and bees are in our area here.
That's fantastic, Katrina. It seems like you have already done a lot in Co.Galway. And can you tell us about some of the actions Co.Galway have proposed in this biodiversity plan?
Sure, Mary. Well, we've got actually 8 projects, which is a lot, so I won't go into all of the details on the projects, but just to give you an outline, we have like a Clare River restoration project, we have the a peatland development project, then we also have Pollinator Project, community garden project, and then we're looking at walking routes map, and bat and swift surveying boxes, and then also tree and hedge laying, and finally we'll be looking at invasive species and how to control them. So I mentioned about the Pollinator Project and all the actions we've taken part, and we're going to further our actions now this year by engaging with businesses, residents associations, sports grounds. And the way we're going to do that is we're emailing them little letters and asking them to take part in at least one action to protect pollinators. And we will then assist them with that action, and we'll give them some nice signs, as Gaeilge and in Irish, or in English, because we're in a Gaeltacht area. And so then for the community garden then project, we have got different actions as well. So we're going to identify a possible location, and it depends then on the location what we're going to do. If we've got a temporary location, we'll have pots and removable raised beds. And if we get a permanent location, we'll have raised beds, water harvesting, composting, and an orchard. We'll set out features, children's area, wildlife area, composting area, medicinal herbal areas. And we'll also provide workshops such as planting for pollinators, grow your own, and propagation of plants and beekeeping. We'll involve the community, and we hope to even have a market and giveaways as well. And finally, I'll just give you a little insight into one of our other projects, which is the Walking Route Map project. So for the month of May, seeing that it is Biodiversity Week now, next week, or this week, should I say, we are having a little competition for our Co.Galway Tidy Towns members and other people who live in the area, and it's called Step, Snap and Send. So people take photos and send in their photos of their nature in their area. And from these photos, we're going to come up with some nature walks for the village, and we're going to incorporate the nature history and make a few maps and display them around the village together with QR codes, so people can go on these nice walks around nature, because we've been walking and cycling so much during COVID-19 times. We want to keep this going even when COVID-19 is over. I think it's so important.
That sounds fantastic, Katrina. It sounds like you're going to be very busy there in Co.Galway. Just before we let you go, have you any top tip for communities looking to get started on their own biodiversity plan?
Yes, I do, Mary. I would say start small, think big, and connect people with nature. So if you could identify a biodiversity project which you're interested in and which you have members who would be interested in helping you with, go ahead, start small, complete the project successfully, and then you can build on that. That's what we did in Co.Galway. We started small with the Co.Galway Pollination Flower Project, and we're building from there. Also, I think it's very important to connect people with nature. And if you allow people to benefit from nature and experience nature, they're going to be more likely to appreciate and care for nature. And I say the best tip of all, though, would be to take part in the Burrenbeo Biodiversity Training, because it was excellent. I must thank you very much. We really learned a lot from it. We had so much fun. And I'd also like to thank as well the biodiversity group here in Co.Galway. They were phenomenal with all the work they put into making the plan. And now we're putting in the actions to make it happen.
Well, thank you, Katrina, and you've been a fantastic group to work with. And Juanita, have you any comments on the Clare-Galway plan, or anything you'd like to add?
Well, Katrina, fair play. I mean, it's just amazing what you're doing in Clare-Galway. And what I would say is that you're really acting as a mentor, like in order to, do that sort of monitoring programs with butterflies and bees. It's very difficult for, a lot of people are intimidated by it. So the fact that you're bringing people out and showing them how to do it, it's so much easier to learn that way, to learn identification skills. So fair play on that. I think that's wonderful. And we're always looking in the data center, we're always looking for more and more people to become recorders, especially on those, Well,
I do have a research ecology master's in pollination.
Brilliant. Oh my God.
But I am teaching other people, so,
Yeah. No, that's amazing to share that knowledge, because a lot of people are shy as well. Someone might do it themselves, but not bring anyone else along. So if you can do that in your local area, that's absolutely amazing. And everything from the community garden to, the tree planting and native hedge planting that you're doing, the walking routes, all really, really positive. I noticed as well in the plan about, potentially making Clare-Galway pesticide free. That's a big challenge, but have a look at other towns that are doing it, like Athboy in County Meath and Ballincollig in Cork, have really made great efforts in that. It is a challenge, but it's an amazing thing to do. And they've done it in Paris and Barcelona and some big cities.
Yeah, I lived in Canada for a few years and Nova Scotia, and it's pesticide free. So I mean, I think we need to start small. I think it's just it's a mind.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. And likewise for all the groups, I would say, you know, not everyone is going to like areas of reduced mowing. So maybe it is a case of putting planters in certain areas. You know, that's the whole idea of the Pollinator Plan, is to give lots of different options that are palatable for local residents. But absolutely, no, it just looks like you've covered everything you could possibly cover. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great one to start off with. It kind of sets the bar very, very high.
Yeah.
I suppose all our communities are coming from different backgrounds and different levels. As I was saying, some of them are just setting up groups now to just to take part in the training and to do a plan and to go from there. And everyone has to start somewhere. But congratulations to Co.Galway on an excellent plan. Maria from Kinvara, if you don't mind, I'm going to go to you. Maria is in the Tidy Towns in Kinvara, and I just want to ask her a couple of questions about the Kinvara Biodiversity Action Plan. Hi, Maria.
Hi, Mary. Hi.
So it's just a question, I suppose it's about the training. Do you view your place any differently after completing the training program?
Yes, I think the idea of an integrated picture of a place, that you're not just Tidy Towns looking after nature, you're not just in the heritage group, that you look at your place from a total point of view, the buildings, the nature areas, the history of the place. I think that was a concept I anyway hadn't thought of before, and I think it's a good concept, you know, to bring everything together, because sometimes you have disparate groups and they don't really interact very much with each other at all. And I was reading recently about Tidy Towns, and somebody was saying that you know, it's not a correct name anymore, because it's not all about Tidy Towns anymore. An awful lot of it is about looking after your buildings, sustainability, environment, you know, so yeah, I thought that was a good concept, you know.
Great. I think Kinvara is beautiful. I'm a bit biased because the Burrenbeo offices are obviously here in Kinvara. But can you tell us about any local hotspots for nature that you know of in Kinvara?
I suppose because Kinvara is a coastal village, you really have to mention that. And so Kinvara Bay comes right into the middle of the town, and you can walk all the way along it, and you can admire the rocks, the seaweed. But one of the very interesting things is the way that, as we know from Oliver Cromwell, there are no rivers in the Burren. So all of the water in the area from Gort all the way to Kinvara comes underground. And if you look in over the bay, just across from the pier head, you'll see at low tide the river water rushing into the bay, and also over by the castle. And it's lovely to see it. Or sometimes you'll even see like springs coming up underneath the water if you look out a little bit, again at lowish tide, you know. So I think that's a very amazing kind of spectacle, you know. And I suppose the other big feature in Kinvara is the Burren. So we are one of the entrances to the Burren, not the only one, but one of them anyway. And you know, we can look up at the beautiful bright stone of the Burren Hills, and it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, I would go and walk on Abbey Hill. Abbey Hill is about 2 miles from Kinvara, and you can see you can see the gentians there at the moment. And we're hoping that, because our limestone base is more or less the same as the Burren, you know, that with our biodiversity areas, that the native seed bank will bring us some, like we've already last year had pyramidal orchids at Holly Tree Garden, which is one of our biodiversity projects. And so, you know, we will hope to increase the number of hotspots for nature in Kinvara.
Fantastic. Actually, can you tell us a little bit more about some of your proposed actions and that are in the plan?
So our big project for the Tidy Towns, we're the group who attended the biodiversity training, which we really enjoyed, is made up of 2 groups. So the Tidy Towns group our kind of big project for this year is Holly Tree Garden. So that's really just a piece of grass. It's about a half an acre, a third of an acre. And so we've been working on that for a number of years. And but we're really, and I have to say thank you to Galway County Council. You know, in previous years, we would have planted wildflowers at the wall end of the garden, and the people who are mowing the grass would keep mowing tighter and tighter. But anyway, last year we spoke to the area engineer, and he said that they were going to cut back on their mowing, and he was quite happy for us to use the entire green space as biodiversity wildflower meadow area. So that was fantastic, and so their mowers won't go in there at all. So the first step we took was last October. We just got as many people out as we could, and we cut the grass, and we removed all of the clippings and really cleared the area as much as we could, and in preparation for this year. And we haven't done anything clipping wise or anything there since. We're just waiting to see what sort of plants will grow, what sort of flowers are there. So that's a kind of a big job, and we were lucky. Not last year, the year before, we applied to Galway County Council for a grant to employ horticulturists to draw up a plan for that area. So that was the first step in the plan, and the second step was to lay a path. So previously there was no path through this green, so people would walk through it anyway, and it was just mud and water, and you couldn't put a buggy through it. So anyway, Galway County Council now has laid a very sympathetic path, similar to what's in Cool Park, with just and it's very you know, easy to have a wheelchair on it, or you know, so it's a very nice path. So that's the first two steps, and I mean, it is a big project, and we'll be spending a number of years on it. So just to quickly say, the other big project, the other group who joined with us were the Balandarian Kinvara Tree Gang. So that's a new group that started in the last year, and their big project is planting trees. So so we were absolutely delighted as Tidy Towns Group to help out with this project, because we wanted to be planting trees for years, but it can be difficult to find a site. So they approached a landowner locally and were given a plot of about half an acre, and they have started this absolutely amazing project, which is a research project looking at Miyawaki tree planting. So they've got 4 plots. 2 of them are planted in Miyawaki density with enriched soil, and the other 2 are control plots, and they're just planted at density that trees are normally planted in Ireland, and one of them is enriched soil and the other one isn't. And it's an amazing project. I mean, at the moment, really the soil is just being prepared, and all of the trees will be native sourced in Ireland, and it hasn't been done. It has been done in Ireland in small areas, but not to any great extent. So wow. It's a fantastic project, and we're delighted to be involved.
That's fantastic. Well, congratulations, Maria, and to the Tidy Towns and to the Balandarian Kinvara Tree Gang for an excellent plan. Juanita, have you any comments on the? Again,
I love Kinvara. Yeah, it's a special place. So no, it looks like you're doing amazing work. I love the idea of working with the council. I think it's really important, and to reduce that mowing. Just to say, you know, generally we've been doing a bit of more creating awareness on wildflower seed and the problems with wildflower seed, like in Clare especially, or Galway, you know, Donegal, places like that. It's a real mistake to buy wildflower seeds in Lidl or Aldi or Woodies or wherever and try and plant it, because you do have amazing flora and beautiful orchids that will come up naturally, and the seed bank is there. So if at all possible, you know, instead of putting out wildflower seed, to actually, you know, reduce and remove clippings, reduce mowing, remove clippings is a great way to do it. And just to mention, as you say, Kinvara is coastal. There's a new scheme called Explore Your Shore, which is might be interesting for the local school kids or members of your group, that you can actually, you know, record what you see on the shore for marine species. But yeah, absolutely amazing. It's going to be really exciting over the next few years to see all these projects develop.
Great, thanks Juanita, thanks for that, and thanks again to Kinvara, and well done. So the next community we're going to talk to is Ardrahan. We have Anya O'Loughlin from Ardrahan. It's a group that has been set up to take part in this biodiversity training and complete the plan. Hi Anya, can you hear me?
Yes, hi Mary.
How's it going? Can you tell us a bit about your experience of the biodiversity training program?
Okay, so like as you say, we were a new group that was set up as, you know, especially because of the program. So the program acted as a catalyst for us to come together. So yeah, it was very interesting and very helpful, and also interesting to hear from other groups and what they were doing. And it also kind of gave us a focus and a structure, and it you know, gave us an opportunity to work together, especially in producing the plan, you know, and to get to know each other better, because a lot of us didn't know each other beforehand.
Yes, and did you find it hard being online?
Well, I think, you know, at this point, everyone just kind of accepted that's how it had to be. And of course, it would have been much nicer to have been able to meet up and that. But it's just one member of our group, because she actually works online, found it a bit too much, and it didn't join a lot of the workshops towards the end, but she still wants to be totally involved, you know.
Of course, yeah, it's hard to keep up the Zoom momentum. What plan actions are you looking forward to carrying out most, do you think, Anya?
Oh, well, I think actually really kind of everything. We've set up a new Facebook page to, you know, reach out to the community. And, you know, we have all been reaching out to a lot of different community groups. We've also got a good relationship with the council, with our lovely county engineer, you know, who's always in favour of planting native trees and letting the grass grow. Because here on, well, on the estate where I live in Ardrahan, last year, because there was reduced mowing just due to COVID, a lot of orchids just appeared, and we went out and we counted, there were 10 orchids, and we knew the council were coming to cut the grass the next day, and we talked to them, and I wasn't, none of us who were kind of watching the orchids weren't present when they came, and I was dreading coming back to see them all gone. They had clipped all around the 10 orchids. The 10 orchids were standing there, and it was amazing. So I had to ring them up and really thank them for that. And so, you know, we're you know, building on that relationship. We've also reached out to the GAA and the church and the tidy towns. So it's really nice kind of working together with the different community groups. And
yeah, that's fantastic, Anya, and well done. I think it's great to have a new group come together, and I think it's fantastic as well the way you're collaborating with the different groups. Because we're all about that at Burrenbeo. Sometimes it can be hard to work with different groups if you don't have much in common with them, and the only way. Juanita, have you anything to say about Anya's?
Anya, again, amazing, and it's really lovely to hear that the local engineer is, you know, aware of reducing mowing, and that people recognize the orchids and mow around them. That's really great. One thing it always reminds me, we should be ringing councils and thanking them like you did. That's a really good example. Like they, from talking to council staff, they always get the complaints. They get the complaints about long grass in estates or roundabouts, or this looks bad, you know, or why is someone spraying, or why isn't someone spraying my area? So to ring up and actually give them positive feedback on pollinator friendly or biodiversity friendly initiatives is absolutely brilliant, and they really do appreciate it. So I would keep that up, and it just sounds like a really lovely community. Like I was really impressed with all the Saturday market, and you know, you've so many different groups, the ICA and the active group and tidy towns, and working with sports clubs. Again, that's why we've produced so many different guides in the Pollinator Plan, so please do use them, you know, to try and get those other businesses and sports clubs and so on in as well to support you.
That's great advice, Juanita, about complimenting the, you know, county council workers or whatever workers are doing, because positive feedback is so important. I think. And yeah,
And
you're
we
right.
tend to forget to do that.
Yes, exactly. You
Yeah.
never really think of it, but it's definitely something to do going forward.
Yeah.
I'm now going to go to Eilish from Woodford. You're there. Oh, hi, Eilish. How are you?
How are you?
Good, thanks. Good. Congratulations on completing the plan to everybody in Woodford Development Association. I've just a few questions. I don't know Woodford very well. It's in County Galway, of course, but it's not on my side of County Galway. I've only been there a couple of times. I really hope now that the lockdown is over that I can visit more often. So could you tell me some of the local nature hotspots in Woodford?
No problem. Yeah. And can I start first by also adding my congratulations from Woodford to all the other groups, and to thank Burrenbeo, Galway Rural Development and Galway County Council for supporting and providing the training, especially in a COVID year. It was great to get this project underway. So if you come to Woodford, you'll come up into Woodford from probably the Lochray direction, and you'll come up over the Ben Hill, and you'll be looking, you'll have this spectacular view down into Loch Derg and over Tipperary and off into your right hand side down into southeast Clare and the Slieve Mountains. And then you can head down into Woodford and stop at the bay for a picnic on the picnic benches and look at the ducks on the bay, which is at the centre of our town. And from there, then you can head on south out to one of our Millennium Oaks forests. So we have 2 Millennium Oaks forests in Woodford area, which was the project back in 2000 where a tree was planted for everyone, every family in the country. So we have 2, and they're part of Woodford in the 16th to 18th century had this huge oak forest, Woodford Forest, and the remnants of that forest are still there. So you have Rostura and Derry Gill, and then we also have a national preserve in Derry Crag that's managed by National Parks and Wildlife. And then if that's not enough for you, you can head off on the East Clare Way. That'll bring you out Derry Gulin, where you'll see other really great views of Loch Derg and down into Mount Shannon. Or you can head on out towards Loch Athoric, which is where I'm from, and you can see the biodiversity we have in the area, Loch Athoric Lake, and you can see, like, we have old man's beard. It's the lichen or lichen that grows on the trees, and it grows in areas where the air is really pure, and we have any amount of it growing on our trees around the Loch Athoric area. So it's very healthy visit out there.
Fantastic. And you have a great all-encompassing plan with some cultural heritage actions and built heritage actions, as well as focusing on biodiversity. Can you tell us about some of the actions that you're looking forward to most?
A hard one to choose, because the way we structured our group is that for each of our actions we have a champion, and then the rest of the team make up the team members to support the action. But our champions are all interested in the activity that they've championed, obviously.
Lovely.
So there's a great energy around what people would like to do, but definitely probably built heritage and habitats are the ones that seem to have the most interest and excitement, partly in habitats and both, I suppose, in the heritage and habitats, is that we're learning quite a lot about our area. Even though we have all lived in the area for a long time and know a lot about it, we're learning a lot about it. Plus, we're also getting to do actions that are having positive impact. So that's quite interesting. So the bat walks, the bat boxes, the bat survey that we're doing, that people are very interested in that. And we did a lot of work then with the scouts on bird boxes, and we probably look at barn owl and things like that next. And then on the built heritage, we've quite a good, we have a lot of buildings in the area that would have been family houses years ago. And we have an appreciation that when people lived in these houses, they lived more in harmony with nature than perhaps our modern lives are. That sometimes even the way the house is constructed or the place the house is situated was more harmonious to what the land and how nature behaved around it. So that we're learning that. So preserving those sites or managing and maintaining those sites is very interesting to us all.
That's fantastic, Eilish. That's amazing. You actually had a group of 8 people from very different walks of life.
Yeah.
How did your group come together? Was it like Co.Galway where you already knew everybody, or?
We all do in a rural community. You do know nearly everybody.
Yeah.
So Woodford Parish Development are a long-established group, and this Woodford Biodiversity Group are a new group that we formed specifically for this. So Woodford Parish Development have a Grá Dun Groig logo or brand identity.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, love Woodford, and it's to encourage this idea that you love your place in the same way that Burrenbeo have talked about loving your place. So that's why it suited us very well to look to Burrenbeo to do the training. And then one of the actions in our 5-year Sustainable Woodford Plan, it was to get more biodiversity training from a group like yourselves. So we advertised on Facebook, and the group came together, and we have between us, we have over 300 years of living in Woodford.
Wow.
We have a very international makeup. So we
did have a very international makeup. Yeah, so it was one of the things I admired about your group.
Yeah, so we have a very global perspective. That means that we have resources and information coming from places that maybe we wouldn't have looked at otherwise. But like, I'm from Lochadoric, as I said, but some of the people on the group have lived in Woodford longer than I have. So it's, so we have a very good mix.
Well done, Eilish, and everyone in Woodford for a fantastic plan. Juanita, have you any comment on the?
Yeah, no, amazing. I love the bat walks and the bat boxes and native tree planting. The one thing that I haven't come across before, maybe it's I just haven't seen it, but your idea for the nature trail of having QR codes that people can scan and find out more about that area and why it's important. I thought that was ingenious. I think it's a brilliant idea. Might steal it and make it my own and tell other people. No, it's a really nice idea. Instead of, like, one problem I think with having a lot of information boards around the place is that they can, they can weather badly and they can kind of look bad after a while. But having small tags on trees or with QR codes is actually a really brilliant idea.
Yeah, and we were hoping like that we can, you can go into all different areas. It can be a building, it can be plants, as you say, it can be about the Woodford Forest, and we're hoping that we can link it in. Everyone assures me this is really easy to do. So I
don't know much about it, but I know somebody sent me one for pollinators.ie recently as a gift that they had generated. I think it is straightforward to actually generate them.
One of the things we're hoping to do, along with the text and the photographs, say that somebody would be able to go onto this, onto our web, the link would bring them to our website where the page would be with the information. But we'd also be hoping that we'll have audio, that for accessibility and for that there's an audio story, or even one of our group is going to be doing interviews with local people, and that we might get local stories about something that happened here.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I really liked that. I noticed that as well. Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's brilliant.
Okay. Thanks, Benita. And thanks again, Woodford. So second last this evening, of our communities, we have Gort. From Gort, we had the Gort Riverwalk group and Gort Tidy Towns group. And this evening we have Brian here from Gort Tidy Towns. He'll talk to us about the plan. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Mary. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Good. How did you find the training, Brian? Did you find the online thing hard, or?
No, it was excellent. Starting off, first of all, it was an excellent training course. And just to give you a comparison how good it was, I signed up to do a beekeeping seminar or course with UL, and it was just putting me to sleep. It was just like they were just talking and talking. There was no engagement, no breakout workshops, which made your workshop.
Oh, well, that's great. Well, we did make you do all the work, so.
Yeah. So like the engagement level and meeting all the different groups and working within your own teams and all that, it was almost like just to turn up every evening, and you can do it from the comfort of your own home, and very accessible. So for me, when I started this, I had 2 kids under 2, So there was just no way I'm getting out of the house, even no COVID on this. So yeah, online for me was the only way I was going to do this course. Yeah.
That's great. That's great to hear that it worked well. Can you tell us about a few of your proposed actions that are in the plan, Brian?
Yeah, so for Tidy Towns Riverwalk, they're all new groups that have set up in the last 2.5 years in Gort. So we're getting off the ground. So for us, I think the two projects that I think are a priority is making everybody aware of the All Ireland Pollinator Plan. I had heard about it, but I never actually read it until we went through it on the course. And to have a resource like that available, and just to make it, you know, get everybody in town or any other residents groups or any other states, just to make them aware of it. Just first of all saying there's this resource here, and it's got full of options that you can do within your estate or around the town that are going to be hugely beneficial to biodiversity. So I just thought just getting people aware of that resource would be a big step, because people are basically in this town, they're just not involved, they're not engaged. Which brings me on to the second project that I think is also important, because for us in this town of this size, for anything to work, we need to get engagement from the wider community. So one of our second project was to engage with the wider community, because we could have the best biodiversity plan in the world, but if we don't get people to buy in and engage with it and take it on board and say, yeah, we're behind this and we're going to try and follow as many points on the plan as we can. If we don't have buy-in from the wider community, it's just not going to work. So we have lots of other points in terms of, you know, promoting mini forests around the town, or building habitat corridors for wildlife and all those other things, and engaging with other groups. But to get the wider town on board is going to be key. Now, obviously, you don't have to get the whole town, but just enough that every resident group or estate, and there's quite a few estates in town, if they were all at least aware of the impact of spraying or overcutting and manicuring your lawns, how that impacts nature, and just make them aware of small little changes can have a huge impact.
Fantastic, Brian. And do you view your play to Gort differently after having completed the program?
I think a lot of the different topics, what I was found about the course was everybody had an idea, and everybody said it when we started the course, was that we just thought biodiversity was nature, and we were totally unaware that the built heritage and the culture and the people are part of that plan as well. So it's things like that yeah, I see Gort differently now. It's the parts of the town, or the aspects of the town that you wouldn't have been aware of when we were looking at the resources on the old maps of the town and the old photos of the town, and it gives you a different perspective. Like you're looking at sites or pictures from over a century ago, and you're trying to figure out where that was. And
yeah, there's so much heritage in Gort, it's unbelievable, and it really is a beautiful location.
And also it kind of makes you sad, because some of the heritage that you've lost from that was there, and if you still had it now, it would be amazing. But it's gone, and all you can do is just make people aware of this is what was there, and if you want to make sure you don't lose any more, you need to be vigilant and stay awake.
Yeah, fantastic, Brian. And I think what I thought was fantastic about the Gort group that did the project was the fact that you were two quite different groups coming together to do the training and to do the plan. So well done on the fantastic plan. Vanita, have you any comments, Brian?
I think, Brian, your plan is brilliant, and I think your number one action is the most important one in the Pollinator Plan, actually, is to recognise and protect what you already have. Like, I think there, you know, a lot of the time we overlook things. We're so used to our own areas. We don't appreciate maybe a flowering hedgerow or a hay meadow or a patch of meadow or a patch of forest, as you say. So protecting what we already have is really, really important, and it's free and it's sustainable. And I love the idea of the pocket forests. I know in Dublin, there's actually, I don't know if that's the same idea, but there's 2 girls during lockdown set up pocket forests where they're giving out trees to actually plant in small patches of land. So I think they're very interested in linking up with people outside of Dublin to continue the programme. They might be able to help. And the wildlife corridors, I think that is brilliant, to be able to look at your town or village and actually, you know, from a pollinator or bird or bat's point of view, see where are these patches of biodiversity friendly areas and can you join them up. And of course, removal of invasives. I see you're doing that. That's very important as well.
Yeah.
So there's great, absolutely brilliant projects there. And I love the river walk idea. I think anytime you can bring something for humans as well, we need to, you know, appreciate these places and make them accessible. And it isn't always about planting, you know, some of those river areas, you know, maybe it's fencing off livestock and letting trees naturally regenerate in those areas. That can be very successful as well. So, but it's really exciting. I wish you all the best success with it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anita, and thanks, Gord. Last but not least, we have Moore. Thanks, Peter, for your patience in waiting for us to get to you. Moore had 2 groups involved in the training and in making the plan. They were the Moore Tidy Towns group and the Active in Age in Moore, Peter. So could you tell us, Peter, about a few of your proposed actions that you have in your biodiversity plan?
Yeah, I suppose to put Ormore in its context again, like Ormore is a population of about 5,000 people, almost all living in housing estates. And we would recognize that unless we can win over people in the housing estates to look at biodiversity, it doesn't really matter what we do by way of wildflower areas or planting. So our goal, first of all, was to create wildflower areas, which we did now in the village, okay, was now to go set ourselves the objective of going to the resident associations, and in some cases actually going to the management companies, because a lot of them in the village own land, and basically working with them. That's our main objective, is to work with them to see, can we bring about through persuasion, okay, the idea of setting aside just a small bit of the green areas for planting trees, for not mow, and see would people appreciate the value of that. We've done our own work, okay, in the village in terms of converting all our planting over to pollinator friendly, creating wildflower areas. So we have 2 objectives. One is to try and convert some of these green grass areas in the central housing estates into wildflowers. Now we'd be careful what we pick, and we have to allow kids to play football. That just has to happen. The second thing is to basically try and lead out on a major planting of trees. And we're starting to see the ash die back quite considerably here in Ormore, and it's a good time to move. And then the third one is to plant apple trees, to create a dispersed orchard that people can create. There's, you know, their biodiversity value, their pollinator value is huge, obviously. So that's really our objective. And we work very collaboratively. Ormore Trade Towns has a very representative committee. Everything from resident associations, development association, the community garden is in there. We people representing the arts side of it. Conservation volunteers are there, and Tashka is there. We really, collaboration is our theme, because we know that half a dozen people, 8 people will just not achieve enough on their own. That's all.
Yeah, fantastic, Peter. And very often older places in the landscape can act as islands for biodiversity. Are there any special historical places in Ormore that are valued as nature havens? Yeah,
it was actually through the work on the training courses, Mary, we recognized, I suppose we just stumbled on the Church of Ireland graveyard. It's a place that kind of nobody goes into. There's been no burials in 60, 70 years. And there's like 240-year-old yew trees. Jessica Alvarado, who worked with us, had done a whole biodiversity survey of that, and told us what's actually in there. So we're working now with the Church of Ireland to identify the gravestones naturally before we go anywhere in, and then to work out a couple of trails around the Church of Ireland graveyard where people can see basically a place that nobody has gone into, even though it's in the center of the village. People don't go in there as you would. I mean, youngsters climbing over and back, but I mean, nobody goes in to appreciate what's there in terms of some of the trees that are there. It's untouched. It's not like it's not cut every week. It hasn't been actually maintained as what we would know as a graveyard for many years, because there's no burials there. There's no Church of Ireland community in the village now. So that's one that's on our list of things to do.
Wow, fantastic. Just before we finish up, any top tip for communities looking to get started on their own biodiversity plans?
I would say, collaborate. Yeah. Collaborate with people. Okay, solar runs don't work, and ownership is like, the more people get involved, okay, everybody's welcome. Everybody has something to contribute. Okay, the structure that you went through with us was very helpful. Mary, I would know some of that myself. When you forced us to go through the process of starting as far back as you can and look at the heritage, we've forgotten that Ormore has itself. I mean, you saw that you put on the picture of Ormore Castle, but there's actually really old stuff. When you look at these old maps, you realize, okay, oh my God, there was a mill there. Okay, let's go down and look at that and realize. So this process you went through of like, don't jump to doing things until you understand the context of everything. That was very, very helpful for us, and has brought more people into this that wouldn't than would previously have been involved. That's all.
Great. That's fantastic, Peter. And congratulations again to Ormore for an excellent plan, and best of luck with putting all those actions or putting all those plans into action. Juanita, have you any comments for Peter?
No, again, really, like, everything you're saying makes complete sense, because we see it all the time on the Pollinator Plan. The groups that have the most success are those that actually go in, with an open door and talk to housing estates, residents associations and companies. And, it's all about education, but not in a preachy way. It's about spreading that message and seeing what they want to do themselves. And like you say, absolutely, there has to be playing areas for kids, and maybe it's just a 3-week meadow, maybe it's not long grass, that there's so many different options. And I'm a personal big fan of community orchards. I think it's such a lovely idea, and it brings people together. Like in my local village, I encouraged them to do that because they didn't want to do reduced mowing. So in 3 housing estates, they planted very small orchards, but they're all in flower now, and they're only in the ground a year. And they look absolutely beautiful, and they're not mowing just around those orchards. But to think that the trees will be producing fruit in a few years for the local community is really nice. And I don't know why we didn't think of it before now.
One of the first things we did, again, on our flower boxes was to pull out everything and start put in raspberry bushes and gooseberry bushes and blackcurrant bushes.
Exactly.
And what kids don't eat, the birds get. It was a no-brainer, really.
It's a win-win. And like, you're not just planting for the look of something. Again, in terms of climate action, it's a really sustainable thing to do, that you're planting edible plants. And the fact that you have 54 planters in the town that are all pollinator friendly, that's huge. That really fair play. It's amazing to change from what was traditional annual bedding, over to pollinator friendly. It's not easy, and not everyone will like it, but it is so much more sustainable, and it's great for wildlife.
That's fantastic. Well done again. I suppose this training program wouldn't have been possible without Galway Rural Development, who funded Burrenbeo to do the training, the subsequent skills workshops, and creating the biodiversity plan. So I'd just like to talk to Claire Conroy of Galway Rural Development. Galway Rural Development also have funding available for biodiversity projects. Claire will probably tell you a little bit more about that, but I'll just pass you over to her now. Hi, Claire.
Hi, everyone. Delighted to be here this evening, and thank you, Mary, and everyone for letting me hear all your stories, and your feedback is amazing. Like the 6 plans highlight that East Galway is highly important in the context of nature conservation. As many of the habitats, flora and fauna found in East Galway are rare, and in a national and European context. and the wealth of natural heritage, wildlife and wild landscapes in East Galway make it such a special place, and we're so lucky to live in it. And you know, it's particularly attractive as well as a tourist destination. As you know, the loss of biodiversity reduces ecosystems' ability to recover from impacts and supports less flora and fauna. So creating the cycle of loss, you know, its preservation is key, and you know, it all adds to tourism potential as well. You know, in towns, and bringing people into the area, I think is very important. But the 6 plans that you have completed, you know, will enhance and, you know, teach so many people about biodiversity awareness and understanding of this resource at local level. And the plans are an essential step, I think, and I hope you found it very beneficial. So for each community group, and the actions that you have and will develop will enhance specific biodiversity resources in your areas. Galway Rural Development believes the outcomes of the plans will help meet important European and national environmental objectives, as well as a contribution to the county's reputation as an environmentally enhanced destination for tourism in the country. And I just have to say, well done to everybody for putting that work in, for Burrenbeo for putting that training together. I think everybody has really enjoyed it. I know it's been a difficult year. I know some people may not have liked the online, but then other people, it wouldn't have been possible to do the training. So I think, you know, it's been a learning curve for everyone. And I'm delighted to have helped facilitate and, you know, give everybody the opportunity to complete the training. And we're delighted to roll out the leader program in East Galway. And the environmental team is very important to us. So as Mary mentioned, there is funding available for biodiversity projects, but of course, you know, maybe further plans in terms of, let's say, if there's something around water. I just noticed there in the Ormore, you have potential projects around the wetlands, you know, so for instance in Gort, maybe there's something to do with the river. If there's a survey down there we could do under water resources. So I'd welcome the opportunity, perhaps that if something, if that can come of it. You can always drop a line and complete an expression of interest form, and hopefully, you know, something might be of benefit to you. If there's extra funding available to you, that you can possibly complete another project that will be of benefit to your areas. So well done everyone again.
Thanks Claire, thanks a million. I'd just like to say thanks to Juanita Brown from the All Ireland Pollinator Plan for coming this evening and giving us her take on the plans. We're a big fan of the All Ireland Pollinator Plan. Here, of course, they have the latest one. Is it 2021 to?
Yeah, to 25. Yeah.
25. Very good.
Another few years.
I wasn't sure how many years it was, but also thanks again to all the communities. Well done. We think you're fantastic and stuck to training really well, created some fantastic plans. Just to say thanks to Marie Mannion, who wasn't able to be here tonight, for helping with the graphic design of those plans. And I know she's going to do a print run for each community of the plan, so they'll be able to give them out. Just to finish up with you, Kate.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. Can I just say I'm utterly blown away, guys. That was just, you know, Mary had done this project last year as well, and to run out this program again this year, I've never seen the completed plans and all the comments and everything you were kind of saying about the plans. I'm just utterly stunned. Do you know, the comments about pulling together, working with people, do you know, learning about the layers of the place. It's utterly fabulous to hear all of that and to see the enthusiasm and the work that's being done out there. I won't keep you for too much longer now, because we have run slightly over time. I'm just going to do a very quick screen share just with the poster for tomorrow night, just so you know what is coming up for tomorrow night. So of course, don't forget, this is our Burren in Bloom, so it's running up until Saturday. We have different things on every night. And just so you know, you can't see, we've had up to 130 people online with us tonight, which is an amazing start. So including our members, our volunteer groups. So a huge thank you to everybody for joining us. And hopefully these 6 groups have really inspired other groups as well, maybe into projects that they can carry out. Well done, Mary, for such a fabulous rollout and some great projects. I have to thank the Heritage Council and the EPA for providing funding for the Burren in Bloom Festival. Of course, I have to thank Pranjali, our amazing Pranjali, who has, as always, put together the most amazing programme for Burren in Bloom. So Pranjali, really, really well done, and well done for trusting myself and Mary for opening up on the starting night. Hopefully nothing went too badly wrong. So I'll just stop the screen share there. Don't forget to come and join us all for the rest of our Burren in Bloom. And again, guys, can I just say, like, what an inspiring opening night. I'm completely and totally blown away. So keeping up that good work, and I can't wait to see all the rest of the work happening with these projects. So really well done. So if no one's anything else to say, then we're all happy enough. We'll finish up for the night there. And guys, yeah, I'm finishing the night on a high for definite.
That's great. Thanks a million, Kate. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, good night, everyone. Thank you so